Welcome to our Iron Man 2 review.
Before we get into the review, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out.
And we said last week that we had a Facebook account and a Twitter account. We're taking down the Twitter for a little bit as it is getting a little bit too much for us to manage both at once at this point. So we still have our Facebook one up though, so go ahead, look at that. Got some bonus content up there. Also notifications as to when you can expect our videos coming up and, you know, kind of a sneak peek at what the content of those videos is actually going to be. Yeah, enjoy the video.
Okay, so Iron Man 2, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, so right off the bat, not as good as Iron Man 1.
I would agree.
But I feel like it had elements that the screenwriters could have used to actually make it a better film.
Okay.
I feel like some of the scenes were poorly written, probably a little bit poorly directed, but they had some really good elements there that they probably could have turned this into a better film. Also with the better villain, I feel like this film could have been a lot better than it is. But because of the poor choice in villain, poor choice in scenes, it didn't really work.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. My thoughts, it was pretty similar to the first Iron Man, like just sort of okay, but I would agree that it's not as good as the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
Not that I loved the first Iron Man either, so this was like really mediocre for me. And yeah, the villain was even worse than the first Iron Man villain. Didn't think it could get much worse, but it
almost
did.
Laughable.
Yeah,
this villain.
it was really unfortunate.
Dude.
It was, yeah.
We'll get into more of it later, but my initial thought is you have this ability to do something that only one other person in the world can do, which is create an arc reactor to power an Iron Man suit, and you make whips.
Well, create an arc reactor, period, I think.
Well, period, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah.
he's an idiot.
To make things.
So,
It's so sad.
that being said, what did we like?
What did we like?
Start us off with that.
Okay, so I love the scene where he's making the new element. It totally is like a callback to the first Iron Man.
We're going to have a disagreement later, but go. Keep going.
I liked that, okay? I liked that. I liked the recording of his father, the little brief snippet where we see like baby Tony and he's playing with the little setup that his dad has. Like, it was cute. And I liked that. And there's two like teases in the space of like 30 seconds. One for Captain America, one for Thor, and I appreciated that.
That's good.
I actually had, the first time I watched this movie was after I'd watched Captain America and Thor already, so I really understood what was going on.
I get that reference. It was New Mexico.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, yeah, I would say those were some highlights for me.
I liked the introduction of the villain.
Yeah.
You were like, yes, you're gonna agree then. Ooh.
I was like, yeah, no. Okay,
because
but tell me your thoughts.
I feel like, again, with the rest of this movie, move me. This movie moved me, everyone.
No, it did not.
They had something there that they could have run with and made this movie good. It was the fact that Ivan, just like Tony, had daddy issues.
Yes.
And that is what motivated him to build the arc reactor and actually do his thing. They didn't take it anywhere useful.
No, not really.
But I liked that opening scene. Also, a callback to when Tony built the arc reactor in a cave. This guy built it in a hut in Russia.
True.
Very similar.
Good point.
So I like that.
Yeah. It was a good mirror.
I love how quippy Tony Stark is in this movie. He's a lot more quippy than the first movie.
He was having a lot of fun.
Especially in the first few scenes. It was really good. I like the storyline of the suit poisoning him over time. I thought that was a better villain to Tony than the actual villain.
Yeah.
I liked, as I said before in our Iron Man review, that I like a good payoff, right? When he figures out the freezing thing with going up in the sky, right? And then he uses that against the villain. Same thing happens here, right? He's fighting Rhodey, they put up their hands, that big explosion. It pays off, but we'll get into that later.
Okay, because I didn't particularly like that. There's a number of reasons actually why I didn't like
We're having a lot of disagreements already.
But yeah, I don't know. didn't like
Okay,
it as much.
I liked
but
it.
fair enough, yeah.
We'll hash that out later.
One more thing I loved. Just like in the first one, I love Tony and Pepper. I love the growth of their relationship in this movie.
I would agree with that. I love every single thing that Black Widow does. Black Widow for me.
We are gonna have a huge disagreement.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
Okay. This is great.
Good. Okay.
I feel like for me, Black Widow is the second best character in this movie.
Okay.
Next to the best character in this movie, Justin Hammer, played by Sam Rockwell. If you give me more of him and less of Ivan Whiplash, I would be a very happy man. Very happy.
Hammer's
I love
quite the
him.
guy.
I love him. He's so good.
Yeah.
That's all I have for good things.
Okay.
Let's move into this further. I've sent some debate
this is gonna get really interesting when we move into like my worst things. I'm very interested to see what you have for your worst.
Okay.
But like there is.
We've already disagreed about best things, so
so it's gonna be interesting.
Best moment for you.
Best moment. So I already touched on that. Making the element was a favorite for me. Another really, it's super brief, but a moment with like the kid when he's wearing the Iron Man mask and the like drone lands.
Quick theory about that. Some people think that might be Peter Parker when he was younger, so
I love that
cool thing.
So much.
Yep.
And I just, it's so brief, but it sets up Tony for being that fatherly figure that he steps into later, so I really liked that. I have another kind of favorite, but I think it's going to tie into
This is best moment, not best moments. You're rattling off a bunch here.
Sorry! I have another thing I'm going to tie into my favorite quote, though, so I think we're going to leave it at that.
So if you were to pick one moment, what's your favorite?
My favorite moment in the entire movie... I'm torn between the recording and when he's, like, making the...
What is it? Come on.
When he's making the element. That's my favorite.
Okay. Ooh, that's your favorite. Okay, my favorite moment was, except for the creating the element part, everything that had to do with Tony and his dad in that little video scene. It's very heartwarming. Throughout the whole movie, it sets up Tony doesn't really have the best relationship with his deceased father.
It's so interesting because I had completely forgotten about that scene when I'd seen this movie before we watched it for this review. I'd seen it before, and then when we rewatched it for this review, I had like forgotten about that scene, and when watching it, I realized, whoa, this is like a really important moment,
it's touching.
And I love it.
I think almost every single moment between Tony and his dad has a very well-developed emotional connection to it. Like with him and his dad in Civil War, in that mind thingy, where we see some of their relationship not being as good, still very emotional. And then again in Avengers Endgame, where he actually gets to hug his dad, shake his hand, all that stuff. And it has not my favorite. Actually, it does have my favorite quote, but we'll get into that later. My greatest creation is you. I absolutely love that.
I forgot about that. Yes.
We'll get into that later. Again, that scene was very inspiring, and it was a healing moment for Tony.
It was. That was just good on so many levels.
Yeah.
That was really well done.
Best action scene. You might actually disagree.
Oh, I didn't
on this.
have. A
I know
not.
you're never gonna have a best action scene for these,
but
you might
disagree on this.
I feel like none of the action scenes delivered, except for this one, which was when Black Widow infiltrates Hammer. What is it? Hammer Industries? Is that what it is?
I think.
When she takes down all those bad guys with her super spy stuff.
Okay.
I feel like it's cool. It's one of the coolest moments of the film.
I'm not arguing with that. It was cool.
Okay. And I feel like it's like we get a very good glimpse of what she can do, and she continues to use those skills in other movies, especially in Winter Soldier, which is one of my favorite movies out of the entire MCU. So I really liked what I saw from Black Widow in that scene. That's best action.
Cool. Okay. I did not have a favorite action scene. I just don't.
You don't.
Like those things.
You don't.
As well, I'm not a good judge of those things.
Yeah.
So leave that to you. Favorite quote, is that our next thing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so something that stood out to me when we were watching it is he has that super lame speech at the expo right at the beginning, and he's like,
it's not about me.
I'm so great.
It's not about me. It's not even about you.
Just
It's not even about us.
Yeah, okay, but He's like, it's about legacy, and in the moment, he does not mean it. He's like, totally look at me, I'm the best. But that line has some foreshadowing to it, and we say this all the time, but by Endgame, like, all these things just wrap up beautifully.
Bow.
Yeah, no kidding. So he leaves a legacy, like, no kidding. So, yeah.
And that is a very interesting point with one of our, I can't remember who it was, I think it was me, one of our favorite quotes from the first Iron Man movie where it's don't waste your life.
Yes.
Don't waste your life, now it's leave a legacy.
Yes.
Now that you figured your life, you figured your life out, now do something with it.
Yes.
So,
loved that.
We'll see if that comes kind of full circle in Iron Man 3. It probably won't, but we'll see. For me, my favorite quote was, "My greatest creation is you."
Yeah.
Why was that my favorite quote, actually? There was a specific reason why I picked that. Oh, I remember what it was. It was awesome, but I remember what it was. It was not Tony. Howard Stark had done all of this work for S.H.I.E.L.D. and for the Army.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing creations that he had made. However...
He made Captain America.
He did make Captain
America.
You could also argue that kind of Iron Man made Spider-Man. Kind of. Obviously not literally.
But yeah.
Everything that Tony Stark did once he was able to actually do all the stuff that he did throughout all these movies was greater than what Howard Stark did. And I feel like this is a great connection point. Howard is like, you are going to surpass all of my technological advancements. Therefore, my greatest creation is you, because you will take what I've done and go to the moon with it. That's why I liked it.
It was so good, you guys.
Couple shout outs that I was kind of going for my favorite quote. I don't speak Russian.
Just because it's a hammer quote.
Just because it's a hammer quote. My other one was when Pepper and Tony were on the roof kissing. And Tony was like, "Is this weird?" And then Rhodey's in the back like, "It's weird.
It's weird, you guys.
You look like two seals fighting over a grape." That was funny.
That was funny. Okay, I did have another favorite quote.
Yes.
I assume maybe this was a favorite quote for you too, but when Tony's promoting Pepper to CEO.
Oh, it's you, it's always been you.
Yeah, which
that comes
again ties back to Endgame, and even in the moment, that is, you can tell it means so much more than it's always been you for CEO. No, it's always been you for me. So there's I love it when lines have more than just this is what I'm saying, when there's more to it without overtly I like you.
There's layers.
Yeah. It's good.
It's good.
Okay. For all of our fangirling and fanboying over this, we did not like it too much.
We'll get into that. Theme. I think it's easy. Legacy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not much else we can really say on that. I mean, it's legacy. What do you leave behind?
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Would you say that was at all a motivating factor for the villain? Because it's really important for themes to tie into the villains. I agree it was not, which is why...
No, because his plan was stupid, and he doesn't leave anything behind for his original plan.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. Yeah. And also, unfortunately, I don't really think this theme pays off in the end, even though they set it up as the theme.
Yeah.
It's like, by the end of the movie, what does Tony leave behind? Nothing?
Yeah, it's really setting up what he's going to leave behind in his, subsequent character arc.
But as a single movie, it doesn't deliver.
There's not...
Which is a big knock against the film when your theme doesn't actually follow through.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because then, say somebody only ever watches the second... I don't know why you would only ever watch the second Iron Man, but let's theorize that someone only watched the second Iron Man and the theme was legacy and they didn't get anything out of it. That's unfortunate. Each of these films should have some takeaway.
Yeah.
So, it's just unfortunate.
Story.
Okay, so, story structure is a little better than Hulk. I was able to pick out some of the points. I did do some research as well to back myself up on that, just to be sure. The biggest knock for this film about story is none of the plot points, except for arguably the midpoint, were personal. You really want, in order to have an emotional and a meaningful character arc, you want all of these points to be personal, because then it affects the main character. It changes their motivations, all that. So the first plot point was the racetrack scene. No personal stakes at all, except stay alive. There's no growth. There's just like, hey, this is the villain. Now you're gonna
and a cool new Iron Man suit.
Yeah, and which was actually lame.
I hated it.
So no personal stakes at all. The midpoint is the party scene with Rhodey, and it could have been okay. It could have been good. There is definitely personal stakes involved because this is his friend, but he's like drunk the whole time. So
as you keep saying these things, really, I need to add. Sorry to interrupt. As you keep saying these things, there's more I need to add to the bad stuff. So keep going.
It really lessens the impact that a scene could have had. Like, if they had been arguing about, like, any other thing, or maybe even he was just irresponsible, but maybe not completely drunk, so that this moment can impact him more. Because at the moment, he doesn't even really know what's going on. Even up till the moment that Rhodey flies away, he just sort of, like, sits back and is like, okay.
Whoops.
And then we see him eating donuts, so I mean,
he doesn't
maybe
care.
He's emotionally
I don't think he
scarred,
cares.
But not convinced.
Any man who eats donuts is not impacted whatsoever by what happened previously.
Yeah, probably not. And third plot point was when the drones all take off, and again, like, his friends involved, but like really no personal stakes at all.
Just don't die.
No emotional impact. The most emotional scene in this whole movie is that recording with his dad, and that wasn't a plot point. I think it might have been a pinch point, maybe, which is like a point in between the plot points just to keep the story running.
Which it did.
Which it did, and it was wonderful. But if that's your highest emotional peak, like, that's just sad.
Lame and sad.
Very interesting. So typically in a climax, there's what's called the climactic moment. So everything builds and builds and builds and builds. Then there's a moment of a snap, and the resolution from there. The moment in this movie, the climactic moment, is when he kisses Pepper.
Yeah.
Because then all of the drones are gone, he's saved her, that is when everything has finally reached its peak, and then the kiss, and now resolution can happen.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting, because typically a climactic moment is the defeating of the villain.
Yeah.
Like, you've just spent this whole movie building up to it, now he's finally defeated, and you can roll into resolution. So, not necessarily a bad thing, because that at least was he was emotionally invested in that kiss, I hope. But just, it was
Tony.
It was an interesting choice to make that your biggest moment.
Yeah. Speaking of all these not so good things, what was your least favorite moment of this entire movie?
I say anything with Ivan. Which is unfortunate, because you don't want to have to say that about the villain, but as we've pointed out before, villains are not Marvel's strong suit. And what I was thinking about as I was writing my notes is Iron Man has already had a whole movie to himself to build up his character for the director and the writers to get familiar with him. So you'd think that they put all of this time and effort into Tony, so now he'll be a little bit easier for this movie because they know what his motivations are. They know who he is. So now you'd think they could invest more time into the villain and make him...
is something Captain America does very, very well. First Avenger establishes who Cap is, what he's about, develops him into a superhero, you're done. Now you take Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Very good focus on the villains of that movie, I would say. So, Cap does that well.
Winter Soldier is like an impeccable story. I cannot wait to review that because there's so much juicy stuff there. I was given very little reason to care about Ivan at all.
Yeah.
So,
my worst moment for me was the whole scene in Monaco at the racetrack. Every single moment of that was completely and utterly dumb. Why does Tony Stark have, even though he's the owner, why does he have access to the race car and is able to drive it? To put this into context, race car drivers have one of the fastest reflexes out of all. I'm going to put them in the group of athletes, of high-end athletes.
Yeah, that would make sense.
obviously Tony Stark is able to use the Iron Man suit, but that doesn't mean he can drive a race car at super high speeds.
That's a really good point and something I did not think of.
Like, he shouldn't have been
totally
able
valid.
to do that in the first place. It takes years of training for these professionals to go out there on Formula race cars.
Mm-hmm.
Just because Tony has a suit and he's the owner doesn't mean he can do it.
Yeah, and you can't say like, oh, well, he speeds all the time. Speeding is not the same as racing in a race car.
Yes, because that involves way higher speeds, way narrower tracks, and a lot more technique and other people doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier to weave in and out of slow people than it is to weave in and out of everybody going about the exact same speed.
Yeah.
That was stupid. Everything about Whiplash knowing where Tony Stark would be during that.
I did not get that.
He shouldn't even know that Tony is there.
Yeah.
He shouldn't. And then, let's just assume his plan was, I'm just going to go here, show the world that, I'm Whiplash, I'm going to hit some few cars. Yeah. What's the point in that? He gets captured very, very easily, even though Tony kind of defeats him. You probably could have defeated him as it kind of did by ramming a car into him. That probably would have knocked the arc reactor out. We saw just Tony rip it out with his hands. Yeah. So,
and what would be the point of that? Like, if he doesn't know backup. Stark is in the car, which he shouldn't, why just go out and be like, hey, look, I've got whips. Yeah.
And then
it was just kind of
there was one more thing about that scene that I didn't like. Oh man, what was it? Tony Stark, Whiplash, Pepper.
Happy. No, Happy's
go
great.
through all the things. What was it?
I don't know.
I don't know either now.
We'll come back to it.
Oh, I remember. Okay. The whole thing summing up was dumb because Whiplash has no backup plan. He wasn't the one who got himself out of jail. That was Justin Hammer. So the movie could have, if Justin just decided to do nothing, the rest of the movie doesn't happen. So the villain
totally valid point.
Has no plan.
Which
stupid villain.
Why?
Why? Okay.
Why?
Moving on to more bad things.
Okay.
Let's go. You know what? Let's do something different. Let's go back and forth. Name one thing each. Okay, go.
Pointless and non-compelling villain. I think we've said enough.
The end fight scene was rather cartoonish, and it was very easy to defeat the villain. I would love to have seen there have been a little bit of challenge. There wasn't. They just dispatched everyone like they were made out of Lego.
Yeah, it was totally lame. Okay, so what was Natasha supposed to be in this movie when she's not Black Widow? How does she end up as an assistant to Tony?
The explanation and the reason why I like it is because she's a super spy. She's able to do all this, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is helping her out.
So she just gets into.
She just gets in. She has.
Well, what do you think was her purpose, though? What is that job description?
I think that's the point of her. She has no purpose.
Okay.
She's just a super.
It felt weird, though.
Okay, that's you. When did Tony learn French?
Yeah, and why does he never speak it again?
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. Okay, go.
That
Your
is,
turn.
yeah. Okay. For me personally, this was the worst appearance of Black Widow in any of the Marvel movies. She was...
I would agree, but it was cool. Continue.
Yeah, okay, so what we get out of it is, you're right, we do get to see, what her powers are, which is good because she's one of the superheroes who don't have, a superpower. She's just very, very skilled at what she does, which they show us, which is fine. But she's, flat, she's boring, she does nothing, really, except just be there and beat up bad guys.
Fair enough.
And, we see so much more development in the other movies, but in this one she just feels so bland and just there for the sake of being Black Widow.
That's your
opinion.
I didn't like her. I disagree. The Rhodey intro is very on the nose. I don't like it when they put in a new actor and they have to tell you who it is. We could have figured it out.
I know.
Not to be racist, he's the only black guy in the movie. We would have figured it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and even then, regardless of who it is, they say their names eventually in the movie.
We would have figured it out.
You put
I don't like
it
that.
Was very on the nose. I agree. I would say pretty much everyone in this movie had zero motivation for really anything that they were doing. They always oh yeah, Hammer's jealous of Tony and wants to be impressive, and Ivan's father was kicked out, and so there's camera battery died, and so we let it charge. Today is a new day, as you may have noticed. We've changed. Lighting's probably a little different. Camera had to charge, and we are now refreshed, and so is the camera.
First world problems.
Right? So where were we?
So, I believe you were talking about lack of motivation as one of the problems in Iron Man 2.
Yes, one of the problems that I had. None of the characters seemed to have a real reason for doing what they were doing, and if they had a reason, it was a really weak and superficial reason. It wasn't deep or interesting.
Wasn't convicting.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, not in any way.
Poorly executed. I had a problem with the bird. Like, they made such a big deal about him having the bird. Why did that need to be in there? What was the point?
Yeah,
if there was something secret, like this certain bird had a chip implanted in its brain that he could use to access plans for these Iron Man suits.
That would be
that would have been cool.
interesting.
That would have added another layer. But then they made a huge deal about just his pet.
Yeah.
Didn't make sense whatsoever.
Why would we care? Okay, I think we've already touched on this a number of times, but the climax is terribly anticlimactic. It's very dull and predictable.
And boring. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, dare I say, worse than the first Iron Man climax.
Yeah, it reminded me of a final battle scene in a Lego video game. That's what it looked like and felt like.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. That's funny.
Just two people just shooting up robots that didn't pose any particular threat. The bad guy was super easy to defeat, and it was just lame.
Yeah.
And then final 2 points that I have: the fake strawberries. Did anyone notice that?
I remember you pointing that out, and I hadn't noticed it at first. But once you notice that he's giving Pepper strawberries and they're fake strawberries, you can't unsee it. And it's how hard is it
they
to
look
get
so plastic.
real strawberries? Unless someone on the set was deathly allergic to strawberries. I mean, maybe, what's her name? The actress.
Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, maybe she actually is
She's weird.
allergic to strawberries. But I don't know.
It was weird.
Why plastic? It was weird.
And I know that this point, Naomi, you
brother.
contend with. I didn't like the whole Tony creating this new element.
Tell me why.
There are a number of reasons why. One, this element doesn't have a name. That bothers me. There's a periodic table of elements. Every single one has a name. If it creates a new one, there should be a new name. We find new elements all the time, and they're given names. I don't like that it doesn't have a name. We don't know what it is.
Fair enough.
We don't know where it would fit on this periodic table. I feel like that should have been included. Elements are named by not named. They're organized in the periodic table by, is it how many protons that they have in their nucleus or something like that.
I don't know.
And that's how they're ordered. So if we were given the number of protons in this thing, that would have at least helped me with the scientific perspective.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have been too hard to do. They could have just had Jarvis randomly say, "Oh yeah, this is such and such," and then I don't know. Yeah.
We're not given an explanation as to how he created the element. We are shown how he creates it, but we don't know what he's doing. Obviously, we know it accomplishes the creation of this new element, but the process by which it accomplishes it, we don't know. He's pointing a laser at this triangle thing. How does that create a new element? What is it doing?
Cool.
I don't care. It's oftentimes these Marvel movies we're given explanations as to how things are done, even if it's just simple and we as viewers don't even understand the explanation, right? Because if it is that scene in Infinity War, where Shuri says, well, why didn't you program the synapses to work collectively? That is telling you should have done this. I have no idea what that means, but that shows that there is a process, and that's how you would have made Vision better.
Yeah, and shows her intelligence, too.
Yes.
She thinks of that.
This looks like Tony just experimenting and hoping things work.
Yeah.
I want an explanation as to how exactly he's going about creating this element. We're told that it's impossible. Okay. You show me that it's possible. Now tell me why it was possible.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't like that.
Fair enough.
And that's kind of all I had about it. It just came off as Tony's smart, that's why he can do this. I feel cheated. I want to know how. I want to know why.
Okay. What, so you can make your own new element in our basement?
No. I want to know.
Okay, yeah, no, that's a valid point.
Is that fair?
Totally fair.
Okay.
Totally things that I wouldn't have thought of. I'm not scientifically minded at all, so the fact that they didn't have any explanation just didn't hit me.
And especially because that was a big part of that movie. I want an explanation.
Yes,
and that's something that I don't think Age of Ultron explained how they... Oh, no, they do explain how they made Vision. Okay, so never mind. I do like that. We'll get to that in later videos. So, finally... Well, not finally. Last two things we're going to cover. What was the point?
What was the point? What did you come away with?
I came away with, and this was the first movie out of all the movies that I reviewed where I think I have something that I actually took out of it.
Grasp,
That is, what will I leave behind? What is my legacy? That is what this movie got me to think of.
That's really
The other movies were just purely entertainment for me. I didn't really get anything out of it. This one I did.
Yeah.
And that I think is a good thing for the film, even though it was overall terrible.
That's good.
That was
Actually,
one good thing.
yeah, what did I say about the theme? Yeah, I would say I agree with you that the theme was legacy, and more self-discovery on Tony's part, and so I feel like his arc in this movie was a little bit more complete. Not that it wasn't complete in the first movie, actually, but anyways, it was a good arc, relatively good arc in this movie, and I think that they were able to tie that back into a point that you can take away. I would say a secondary point that isn't like what I can personally get out of this movie. It was just like, what was this movie for? It sets up the other movies quite well, actually.
It does.
And you really notice that rewatching after you've watched the first ones. You see the little crumb trail they've left behind, which is very interesting, and I enjoy.
Yeah, because I think it was this movie that they're like, okay, I think we can start rolling with this whole universe thing. Yeah. Because especially after Hulk, don't
really get a sense.
No, you don't get that.
Really.
First Iron Man, it's like a Batman film, right? One done or a trilogy done. There's no bigger picture behind it. So I feel like with this one, they're like, okay, you know what? Let's go. Let's
actually do this thing, which is so cool because now we see it as a whole, as a thing that they've run with, and we see how well it works out.
Exactly.
It's very, very interesting.
So.
Rating
for you.
Okay.
What do you have?
I gave Iron Man a 6.5, correct?
I believe you gave it a 6.5.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna go with 6 for this movie.
Okay.
Because it was like, I didn't enjoy it quite as much, but it wasn't a Hulk.
Yep.
So I think a 6 is a fair rating.
And I was a little bit higher than you.
Okay.
I went with a 6.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Totally fair. Totally good. Okay, that was our rankings. Ta-da!
That's it.
So, yes, watch this movie. Especially if maybe you've seen the others and haven't seen this one yet. I definitely would recommend giving it a watch because of the breadcrumbs, the teases that they give you. It's very interesting.
As a fan, it's fun to watch.
It is. Totally is. Totally worth your time. So, question of the day.
Before I actually get into question of the day, there's something new that we're doing with question of the day.
Yes.
This is to reward the viewers that watch our entire video right to the end. When we give our question of the day, put your responses in the comments below. In our next video, or next review video, or
probably
next review video, we will pick our favorite response from the comments and share it on our video. So it's a little incentive for you guys to be more involved in our content and what we bring in.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what your answers are, and we'd love to be able to share them back with everyone. So, question of the day. If this, theoretically, was to be your last birthday party, what would you do?
Yes, you're gonna die tomorrow, your birthday's today, what would you do?
What would you do? Who would you do it with?
Leave your answers in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. It really helps us out. And we'll see you guys in our next video.
Bye.
Don't say it. Don't you say it. Left. Come on!